I'm telling you, yeah, we're living in some crazy times when it comes to college football. Well, we're living in some crazy times, period, in this world. But man, college football it's on a whole different level. Like I don't remember college football ever being like this. I mean, I remember whenever the whole ACC thing went down and they grabbed teams out of the Big East round after round after round. That was crazy. And then the Big 12 got picked apart. But this most recent round is just kind of nuts. It's not just one conference. It's like three conferences, and then one conference might be snuffed out again. Remember that there is a precedent to a conference being snuffed out. The Big East was snuffed out. West Virginia had to jump ship onto the Big 12 right before that ship sunk. And Louisville, they got lucky. I got to say this, all right? No offense to my Louisville subscribers, but Louisville got lucky because Maryland decided to jump ship and go to the Big Ten. And by then, West Virginia had already jumped to the Big 12. I'm not saying the ACC would have taken West Virginia over Louisville, but they had already jumped to the Big 12, so they weren't even an option. So Maryland goes to the Big 10, and the ACC brings in Louisville from the Big East. And down went the Big East. Now it is a basketball-only conference. They sold the naming rights to the 7-something Catholic schools. I don't know the exact name of or label that they call them, but there's a certain name, the 7-something schools, 7-something Catholic schools, something like that. And so the Big East went down, sunk like a ship. Now the Pac-12 is in the crosshairs. It is for real in the crossfires, and it's not because the Pac-12 is a bad league. I like the Pac-12. I have been pulling for the Pac-12 to make the playoffs. We have not seen the Pac-12 in the playoffs for like 7-8 years, something like that. I think the last team to make the playoffs from the Pac-12 was Washington. That is crazy. Crazy. I'm getting to the title here in just a minute. Have some patience, people. But they haven't been in the playoffs in like 7-8 years. And personally, I remember whenever USC dominated college football, was winning national championships, and Texas beating USC was actually a major upset. The national championship that Texas beat USC, that was a major upset. So I am not dogging on the Pac-12. I'm just telling you guys what I'm seeing, and it's George Kliavkoff. George Kliavkoff is the problem. The Pac-12 is not the problem. The teams themselves are not the problem. It is George Kliavkoff. He's making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. So I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing, what's being reported. I'm not reporting this. We're not in the speculation zone yet. We will get there later on in the live show. In the live show, we will get to the speculation zone. All right, we'll get there. But to start off, I want to give you what I'm seeing, what is being reported. So what I'm about to tell you is not from Golden Blue Dude. It's from CBS. It's from Pac-12 on Prime. All these other sources are saying this about the Pac-12. And then we will get into the speculation zone. All right? So before we go any further, I would please ask everybody to hit the like button. It greatly helps these videos, helps the live show hit the YouTube algorithm, gets it suggested more, and we get more views. Even if you didn't catch this live and you're watching a replay of this, it doesn't matter. If you hit that like button, it helps the live show get more views. So we greatly appreciate that. On top of that, if you have a question or a comment, or you want to call me out, or a troll comment, whatever the case may be, Super Chat is the way to go. It is that little dollar sign that you see in the bottom right-hand corner. Anything you put in that Super Chat goes on the screen, just like you see my subscriber count. We're at 12,833. We are marching our way to that 13,000 subscriber mark, and it will be here before you know it. And by the way, if you stumbled onto this live show and you're not subscribed, if you love college football, the only requirement of being a subscriber here at Golden Blue Dude is loving college football. That's it. That is it. So if you love college football, hit that subscribe button. We got videos coming out every single day, and we try to do a live show every weekday at 10 p.m. So hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and if you have a comment, question, troll attempt, or you want to call me out, whatever the case may be, hit the Super Chat, and it's a great way to donate to the show. We always appreciate those donations, but in the off season, we appreciate them just a little bit more, because college football fans, they lose interest once the national championship is over, and it's tougher to get views. So we would greatly appreciate it. Look, 2-1. This is what I call a twofer right here. Swabby, hopefully I don't pronounce your name wrong, by the way. Swabby Guns. There we go. $2 donation. So a donation. And on top of that, he says, hit the like button, peeps. That's a twofer right there. So we got a donation through Swabby, and he's reminding everybody to hit the like button. That's what I like to see. Awesome stuff. All right, let's get into what I've been seeing today. Some of this being reported by CBS, some of this being reported by Pac-12 on Prime. Jason Scheer as well, or Scheer. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's Scheer. I think it's Scheer. Jason. Anyways, he's reporting it as well. The first thing I want to get to is Pac-12 on Prime. This is what they're reporting. It says, my source in the UW athletic department, talking about Washington, says Washington has an... I wrote sloppy, guys. Washington has... Oh, okay. Has unofficial offer from BY, Brett Yormark, to join the Big 12. I think we all knew that. That part, not surprising. We all knew that the Big 12 wants Washington and Oregon, so we all knew that they probably sent them an invite. That is not the surprise. This is what really caught my eye, all right? So they have an unofficial offer from Brett Yormark to join the Big 12 that will pay them 115% of revenue with a grant of rights out clause if the Big Ten calls. All right, so let me explain that real quick. This is crazy. This is crazy, guys. Crazy. So we know that the Big 12 wants Washington, Oregon. We know that. That's not a surprise. But my gosh, so they have an out clause designated not just for Washington. The source is also saying this is assuming going for Oregon as well. They're assuming that this is for Oregon as well. So for Oregon and Washington, an offer to the Big 12 that will give them an out clause if the Big Ten calls, and will give them 115% of the revenue with the grant of rights. So not only will they not have an exit fee, but they will keep their revenue and earn an extra 15%? What? That is what you call unequal revenue share. Holy cow. Listen, I know Brett Yormark wants that Pacific market, and he knows that the Big Ten will come a-calling eventually, one day, Oregon, Washington, and he knows that the Big 12 could be used as a stepping stone for Oregon and Washington. But maybe he's seeing this small window and he wants to maximize it and draw other teams in. That way, when they do leave, they're basically torpedoing the Big 12. They're basically taking away any choices that these other Pac-12 teams, excuse me if I said Big 12, I meant Pac-12. He's trying to torpedo the Pac-12. So even if Washington and Oregon don't stay, the damage is done. Those are the two biggest brands left, and those other teams are going to be like, oh, man, we need a way out. And all this is trying to nudge, encourage the four corners to go to the Big 12. And maybe try to get Washington State, Oregon State? I don't know, because he is obsessed. I'm saying this in the nicest way possible. He is obsessed. Brett Yormark is obsessed with getting that Pacific time zone. Let me be clear. I don't know if this is 100% facts, if it's partly true, or if it's not true at all. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing. Let's see. Midnight Magic Musings. I think that's actually a YouTube channel. I'm going to check that out. Midnight Magic Musings. Thank you for the $5 donation. When the realignment finally happens, does Liberty stand to benefit at all? Yes. Good question, actually. Liberty has a lot endowments, a lot of benefactors, a lot of donors. Liberty has more money than people realize that they do. They don't have Power 5 money yet, but they're as close to Power 5 money that you can get. Liberty was paying Hugh Freeze the highest out of any group of 5 coaches in the entire nation, but it still wasn't good enough to keep him from going to Auburn. So I think they're probably one of the most valuable brands left in the group of 5 conferences. So yes, I actually do think that when some of this stuff happens and, conference doors open up again, it just depends on, what kind of footprint everybody wants. Liberty could be a sleeper for the Big 12 to get. I haven't mentioned Liberty. That might not be a bad video to do. I might do a video on that. Thank you for pulling that up. Appreciate it. Because Liberty is a valuable brand when you're talking about group of 5 brands. Now, when you compare them to Power 5 brands, not there yet. But if you stick Liberty into a Power 5 conference, then yes, they are going to make a lot of money. And they will make the conference a lot of money. Especially, maybe they can get... let's be honest. The SEC and the Big Ten, they're on a different level when it comes to revenue. Above Big 12, ACC, Pac-12. So Liberty could, get invited by the ACC or the Big 12, start making money there. Their endowments, their donors, all that stuff, their donations goes up. The SEC or the Big Ten's like, oh, they got a lot of revenue. Probably not the Big Ten because they're in the AU status. I don't know if Liberty is even close to that, but you never know. In the way future, like 20, 30 years from now, we could be talking about the SEC being interested in Liberty. Liberty is in the state of Virginia. It is in the Southeast. I'm telling you, they would fit all the criteria, but they just haven't climbed the ladder yet. They have to climb the ladder, and that would be way in the future. So, but to answer your question, yes, I do think that they would have an opportunity. I would say ACC or Big 12 if things lined up right. Cyclone Steve, thank you for the $2 donation, says maybe ESPN/Fox agreed to pay 120% for UW and UO, meaning Washington and Oregon. Maybe ESPN and or Fox agreed to pay 120% for Washington and Oregon. That's possible, because right now, and I'm going to get into this next part here in just a second. Right now, the Pac-12 is looking to do the majority of its TV deal through streaming. What are you thinking? The biggest player that I'm hearing right now for the Pac-12 is Apple TV. And the name that I mentioned earlier, Jason Scheer, says a deal that's 100% with Apple, talking about the Pac-12, is so bad, it's probably going to happen. Probably going to happen. Let me read that again. A deal that is 100% certain with Apple is so bad, it's probably going to happen. And on top of that, now this next comment is from our good college football conspiracy theorist extraordinaire. So take this one with a grain of salt. Now, these other ones, not from him. They're from other sources. But this next one, take it with a grain of salt, okay? He is a well-known college football conspiracy theorist. Here's what he said after learning that the Pac-12 is diving into Apple TV as far as tier one rights. What are you thinking? Anyways, so our good buddy MacGyver says this: TCU and Texas Tech might be pulling out of their games with Oregon and Stanford if the Pac-12 goes all streaming on their TV deal because of visibility concerns. Now, whether that's true or whether that's not true, it's very, very plausible, because we do know that the major player right now for the Pac-12 as far as the TV deal goes is Apple freaking TV. George Kliavkoff, what are you thinking, man? What? I am pulling for the Pac-12. Listen, I know I've done all these videos about the Big 12 grabbing the four corners, possibly grabbing Washington, Oregon, this and that. But honestly, I don't want that to happen. That is bad for West Virginia. That's bad for. I don't want that to happen. I want the Pac-12 to continue to exist and succeed and make the playoffs and all that stuff. I want the Pac-12 to do well. I do. I really do. But George Kliavkoff, man, you're killing me, man. Your decisions are terrible. And I'll vouch for that guy. I thought it was a good hire. I really, really did. My gosh, dude. Can you make... I will say this. I'm hearing a lot of rumors that San Diego State will be invited or has been invited, and it will be announced in the next week or so. If that's true, congratulations, George Kliavkoff. One great decision. Congratulations, buddy. Anyways, Anthony Carlson, thank you for the $9.99 donation. Appreciate that, buddy. Who or what do you think causes the demise of the Pac-12? George Kliavkoff is the short answer. George Kliavkoff. If the Pac-12 goes under, George Kliavkoff will be the reason. He's making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. I don't get it. I really don't. The first horrible decision that he made was thinking that the Pac-12 was worth as much as the Big Ten and the SEC after USC and UCLA left for the Big Ten. So they announced that they're gone, and he still thinks, and no offense to my Washington, Oregon, Oregon State, Washington State, Cal, Stanford, Arizona State, Utah, Colorado fans, but y'all know that without USC and UCLA and those 10 members, you're just, simply by the numbers, you're not worth as much as the SEC or the Big Ten, all right? So I'm not disrespecting you. I'm just saying by the numbers, you're not worth as much. But for whatever reason, George Kliavkoff thinks he still has like a $2 billion empire over there. Nope. No, you don't. Nope. So what does he do? He opens up the doors for bidding. He doesn't lock down a TV deal. He says, we'll go to the highest bidder, because he thinks people are going to bid and then outbid and then outbid and then outbid. And then he's going to have this great TV deal where all his teams is making 60 to 80 million per team per year. No. Brett Yormark, the commissioner for the Big 12, jumped the line. Because keep this in mind, the Big 12's old TV deal expires a year after the Pac-12's old TV deal expires. So it should have been the Pac-12 was first in line to get a new TV deal, and then the Big 12. But Brett Yormark jumped the line and said, no. We want to lock down a TV deal right now. And he did. Worth roughly between 31.5 per team per year to around 33. Somewhere between that figure. So it's not great. Okay? It's not a good TV deal. I'm not saying it is. But it is a deal. And it's locked in. Good to go. Pac-12 is now thinking about going all streaming for their TV deal. And I heard yesterday that it could be as much as, let's slow this down so we can all really understand what's going on here. I don't know if this is true, but this is what I was told. That deal with Apple TV could be worth $35 per team per year. Number one, that would make absolutely no sense if it's true. Number two, if it's true, that's absolutely stupid by Apple, because they will not make that money back. Not because the Pac-12 doesn't bring viewership. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying because of the platform that they are presenting Pac-12 football. That's a bad combination right there. I really hope that the Pac-12 is not thinking about doing that. I mean, if you want to do it for second tier and third tier TV rights, fine, go ahead. I do think that streaming is the future, but you can't make the future now. It is not now. Most people watch college football on linear cable. That's a fact. When you agree with it or not, that is a fact. Maybe in the future, I believe in the future that it will be streaming, but it's not right now, especially on Apple TV. Come on, guys. How many people do you know that are actually subscribed? Let's break this down real quick. Number one, how many people do you know that are actually subscribed to Apple TV? That's the first question. That, we're narrowing this down. How many people do you know that subscribe to Apple TV? The second thing is, out of those people, whether you know them or whether you don't, are Pac-12 football fans. So they have to be subscribed to Apple TV and then Pac-12 fans, because nobody is going to subscribe to, if they're not a Pac-12 fan, nobody's going to subscribe to Apple TV just to watch the Pac-12. It just makes no sense. It makes no sense. Boom to the Sooner. Thank you for the $5 donation, buddy. Says, if the Pac-12 loses several teams, won't the playoff just get a weak Pac-12 champion in its 12-team playoff? Possibly. There's two ways to look at that. If the Pac-12 loses several teams, right? So let's say they lose Oregon and Washington, probably their two most valuable brands, right? But who's been the champion the past few years? Utah. Let's say that Utah is even better this year. Cameron Rising, and this is assuming that all this happened this year, which I don't think it will. But we're expediting things, all right? So we're saying that Washington, Oregon are gone, which I am not predicting that, just for this particular question, all right? So let's say Washington, Oregon are gone this year. Utah is actually better than what they were last year, and they win the Pac-12 again. The answer to your question, Boom to the Sooner, not necessarily. I'm sorry, I can't give you a yes, and I can't give you a no. I will say the chances of the playoffs getting a weak Pac-12 champion increases. The chances. But it doesn't necessarily guarantee. Just like losing USC and UCLA doesn't necessarily guarantee that they're going to get a weaker Pac-12 champion, because Washington was a really good team. In fact, if they would have beaten Arizona State, they would have been in the Pac-12 championship, and you'd have a one-loss Washington versus a one-loss USC, and the Pac-12 would have made the playoffs. A lot of people want to blame Utah. A lot of people want to blame USC for the Pac-12 not making the playoffs, because all USC had to do was beat Utah and they're in. And all Utah had to do was lose to USC, and the Pac-12 was in. So those two teams get all the blame. There's another team they need to blame for last year, and that's Washington. They had a tough loss on the road to UCLA, and then they lost on the road to Arizona State, which shouldn't have happened. Arizona State was a terrible, terrible team. Once again, for whatever reason, Pac-12 teams, they just have this random, really bad game that they lose to an inferior team. I mean, look at Utah. They lose to Florida in the first game. And yes, I was predicting the upset. I was predicting Florida to beat Utah because of the first game of the year. It was on the road to Florida. Florida didn't know just how much they sucked yet. So, yeah, I predicted Florida to beat Utah. But at the same time, when you look at the entirety of the season, Florida should have not even been close to beating them. I mean, Oregon State mopped the floor with Florida. And, yeah, I think Utah was a better team than Oregon State. So, I mean, you got to stop tripping up on the way. I have no problem with Utah winning the Pac-12 championship. No problem. I do have a problem with Utah losing games they shouldn't lose and then winning the Pac-12 championship. It's stuff like that that's keeping the Pac-12 out of the playoffs. So, Utah, my advice to you is, if you're going to keep winning the Pac-12, by all means, keep doing it. I'm pulling for you. I actually like Utah. But stop losing those games you shouldn't lose. Makes no sense. Anyways. Hero75, thank you for the $5 donation, says, I could see the Big 12 wanting Washington State, Oregon State, and I've made a case for that, in case the SEC comes to take two teams from the Big 12 in response to Texas A&M leaving to the Big 10. You, my friend, have been watching Golden Blue Dude. That is a Golden Blue Dude comment right there, because I've made videos about the possibility of and I think it's a real possibility, by the way, not a prediction, just a possibility. Okay, let me repeat that. Not a prediction, just a possibility. I think there is a strong possibility that in the next 2-3 years, maybe 5 years, that Texas A&M could leave the SEC for the Big Ten. Number one, they hate Texas so much. That is the reason why they left the Big 12. One of the main reasons. Number two, the money for the Big Ten is either going to be the same for the SEC or maybe a little bit more. And number three, academic prestige. Now, the SEC isn't some chump league when it comes to academics. They're a good league in academics, all right? But the Big Ten is elite. All their members, except for Nebraska, who lost their AAU status in their first year, have AAU status, all right? AAU status. Texas A&M has AAU status. Okay, so yes, you combine the fact that they hate Texas and they hate them. They hate them, hate them, hate them. They hate them, hate them, hate them. Especially, I'll say this. This could be the tipping point. This could be the tipping point. It depends on if the SEC lets Texas throw their weight around. If the SEC says, sorry, Texas, that doesn't fly like it did in the Big 12, then Texas A&M will probably stay. I mean, they're not leaving if that happens. As long as the SEC puts Texas in their place and goes, no, we know what you did in the Big 12, but you're not doing that here. No. If they do that, no, Texas A&M is staying. But Texas A&M, if the SEC allows Texas to throw their weight around in the SEC, I'm telling you, Texas A&M could get mad enough to bulk to the Big Ten. The money's comparable. The buyout's like $35-40 million. Not that much. Texas A&M could afford that. You share crazy resources. A lot of people don't realize this, but when you join the Big Ten, the resources that they are sharing is mind-boggling when it comes to libraries, research, all that stuff that doesn't have anything to do with sports. And universities care about that stuff, guys. They do. And that's why I actually think that there's a better chance of the Big Ten grabbing Cal and Stanford before they grab Oregon and Washington. Not saying that they wouldn't choose Oregon and Washington eventually. I do think Oregon and Washington end up in the Big Ten sometime down the road. I don't know when, but sometime down the road. But I actually think that the Big Ten will get Cal and Stanford first because of the academics perspective on things. They really, I mean, we're talking elite. Stanford and Cal like lead the pack. The Big Ten is upper echelon. All the teams are upper echelon, but Cal and Stanford is above everybody. And that's what the Big Ten wants. So do not overlook that. Anyways, so I got sidetracked. But yes, Hero 75 has been watching Golden Blue for sure. Because I do think that there's a chance. Things have to happen, but I do think there's a chance that eventually Texas A&M can lead to the Big Ten. And then, the SEC could come back to the Big 12. Maybe not even because of that. Maybe they just come back to the Big 12 because they're interested in maybe an Oklahoma State or a West Virginia or both, something like that. And then, backing up another step, the Big 12 wants Oregon State and Washington State to replace those teams. Honestly, I actually think that the Big 12 could potentially want them now, not even as a backup plan. They could want Oregon State and Washington State right now, not in the future when they lose teams and this and that happens, because Brett Yormark desperately wants that Pacific time zone. He wants it, and he wants it bad. And no, Gonzaga doesn't count. Gonzaga is basketball. He wants the Pacific time zone in football. So Gonzaga doesn't count. So we've heard that the Big 12 has talked to Fresno State. That could be a backup to a backup plan. I don't know if all this other stuff doesn't happen. We see Pac-12. And by the way, I will do an actual video and give you the graphics and the screenshots of all these articles that I'm reading. That way I can show them to you. I'm doing these live shows on my phone because my laptop is down, so I can't share the articles. But tomorrow, when I do the regular video, I will show you the screenshots, and you'll be able to see them for yourself. But Pac-12 on Prime says that from what he knows with the source in the Washington Athletic Department, that the Big 12 wants Washington, Oregon so bad right now that they're willing to give them a grant of rights, that if the Big Ten comes, they would give them an out clause, and they wouldn't have to give any of the revenue as far as their grant of rights. I don't know how long the grant of why would you? Here's my question. Okay, if this is the case, don't even make them sign a grant of rights, because that doesn't make sense. There is no grant of rights if you're allowing to do that. So basically, they get to keep their revenue and an extra 15%. That is called unequal revenue share. Unequal revenue share. So could the Big 12 possibly be thinking about unequal revenue share just to be able to get Washington and Oregon into the Big 12? The problem that I don't have a problem with Washington and Oregon coming to the Big 12, other than more travel nightmares from West Virginia. But as far as brand recognition goes and bringing revenue, they got it. They definitely got it. So I don't have a problem with them per se. What I do have a problem with is giving them the Notre Dame treatment. What do I mean by that? Well, the ACC is over there halfway dating Notre Dame. They're a member of the ACC, but not a full-time football member of the ACC. And they schedule with the ACC, but they won't make them commit as a full-time football member. Now, with Oregon and Washington, yes, they would be a full-time football member. They would be getting a revenue share, but at the same time, the Big 12 knows that the Big Ten will come calling one day, and when they do, there's nothing they can do to stop Oregon and Washington. But they want them so bad, they're saying, not only will we let you leave without any penalties, but we'll also let you keep your revenue. You'll be able to make money for yourself in the Big Ten, and we'll throw an extra 15% on top of that. Oh, man. That's just desperate. It kind of makes you look desperate. I like the move or the strong arm he's trying to do on Washington, Oregon, because, I mean, those brands would definitely help the Big 12. 100%. Not doubting that at all. Not at all. They would definitely help the Big 12. But at what expense? What is his plan besides if that was his for real offer saying, hey, we want you in the Big 12, and we'll even put an out clause in there where, you know, you can keep not only 100% but 115% of the grant rights. So we'll tack on an extra 15%, so you're getting an unequal revenue share when the Big Ten comes to calling. The only way that makes sense is what I mentioned earlier: torpedoing the Pac-12 and making sure that these other Pac-12 members that the Big Ten doesn't want comes to the Big 12. So if he keeps allowing, I'm not saying Brett Yormark is allowing anything, but for the sake of argument, if he keeps allowing the Pac-12 to continue to exist, even if it's down to 10 or whatever, if they continue to exist, they're still a threat to the Big 12. So by bringing in Oregon and Washington, even if you know the Big Ten's, you know, going to come a-calling, and you're going to give them 115% revenue on the way out, you're still basically forcing those other Pac-12 teams to either stay in a crappy Pac-12 where they're going to make next to nothing, or jump into the Big 12. That is the only way that I see this making any sense. And the match, you know, if Washington and Oregon were to join the Big 12, there would be some interesting matchups. I mean, honestly, I would like to see Oregon and West Virginia. I think they're two similar brands. Now, Oregon's fan base is much bigger than West Virginia's. They're backed by Nike. So there's some big differences. But I do think they're similar in the fact that neither one's won a national championship. Both of them's gotten really close. Both of them's won several conference championships. And they're just really good teams that's never won a national championship. So I'd really like to see I'd really like to see Oregon versus West Virginia. But there's some other matchups in there, like you know, what about Oregon and BYU, which we've seen that in the past. And BYU has actually beaten Oregon in the past, I believe. Not too long, or it might be somebody else. For some reason, I'm thinking it's Oregon, or maybe it was the other way around. Oregon beat BYU. Anyways, I'd like to see that matchup. And then, you know, Baylor-Washington would be interesting. Oklahoma State-Washington would be interesting. And then basketball would be crazy matchups. Dennis M., thank you for the $10 donation, says, my personal opinion, the Big Ten doesn't want Washington and Oregon. They would have taken them by now. Okay? The Big Ten is holding out for the ACC schools to get to 20. FSU, North Carolina, Clemson, and one more. I do agree that the Big Ten wants those teams of the ACC. I don't agree with your choices. I'm thinking Florida State, North Carolina, Georgia Tech, and Duke. I think Duke and North Carolina will go as a pair, and then you'll get Florida State and Georgia Tech Clemson doesn't want to go to the Big Ten, and the Big Ten doesn't want Clemson. They don't have AU status. I know there's several teams in the SEC that don't want Clemson in, but there's not enough of a majority to keep them out. So I think it's going to be Florida State, North Carolina, Duke, and Georgia Tech to the Big Ten. And I think it's going to be Clemson, Miami Hurricanes, Virginia Tech, and NC State. Yeah, NC State to the SEC. That's just my opinion. But the only thing that I would come back on for that particular comment, as far as the Big Ten doesn't want Washington, Oregon, otherwise they would have taken them by now. Well, you have to think about the antitrust lawsuit. I do think that if the Big Ten went after them or accepted them as of right now, they might be looking at an antitrust lawsuit. I don't know the ins and outs of that. That's why an antitrust lawsuit kind of prevents monopolization. But if Oregon and Washington go to the Big 12, then it's not the Big Ten hoarding all these teams that have national championships. And really, it comes down to Washington. Oregon really wouldn't affect the antitrust lawsuit, but Washington would. So if you're taking Washington and Oregon, and Washington, sorry, Oregon fans, but Washington is the better brand, then yes, they're probably going to be looking at an antitrust lawsuit. So that's why this possibility of Washington, Oregon using the Big 12 as a stepping stone to the Big 10, I think is a real possibility because, if they join the Big 12 and then the Pac-12, well, by then, or not the Pac-12, but the Big 10, by then the Pac-12 might be gone. And if the Pac-12 doesn't exist, then there's no chance of an antitrust lawsuit. So, just a lot of legalities right there. Matt Ritson, thank you for the $1.99 donation, says, how come Pac-12, I'm guessing you're meaning don't go with YouTube TV owned by Google. I've been preaching that left and right. Pretty much everybody, well, not everybody, but I'll say 80 to 90% of people that I know have YouTube TV. I mean, it's cheap, it's affordable, it basically has everything that you want. You can add extra subscriptions, like the ACC network and all that stuff for extra. So yeah, I don't know. To me, it's like a hello YouTube TV, and I'm glad you mentioned that because I think YouTube TV is the future of streaming. Whenever I said earlier that streaming is the future of college football, I think YouTube TV will lead the way. I mean, you're seeing big-time college football YouTubers talking about switching over to YouTube TV. I haven't yet, but I'm going to before this next college football season. So even myself, I'm going to be switching over to YouTube TV because I was iffy about it for a while, but everybody that I've talked to, fellow YouTubers that I trust as far as their opinion goes, say, man, it's way better than linear cable. So we're gonna be switching over to it here in the next few months, and it's much cheaper. So that's a great question, Matt, and I agree with you. If you're going to go streaming, you need to get a deal with YouTube TV. Now, here's the thing. Maybe they have tried. Maybe the Pac-12 has tried to get a TV deal with YouTube TV, and they're like, no. Because my theory on that would be maybe YouTube TV sees their demographic, and they're like, well, most of our audience, the vast majority of our audience is on the east side of the United States, and the Pac-12 is on the west side, and they're wanting TV. I don't know about that. I'm not sure how much our East Coast subscribers would want to watch the Pac-12. And that's no offense to Pac-12. I like the Pac-12, but most people that live in the eastern United States is going to watch either SEC or Big Ten or ACC. Unless you're a West Virginia fan and you're stuck with Big 12. But I still watch Pac-12. But you have some people, I'm not going to lie, I see it all the time. You have some people here in the southeastern part of the United States, because I live in the upstate of South Carolina, that absolutely hate Pac-12. They want them to go away. They would never watch them. Maybe YouTube TV sees that demographic and is like, no, it's not even worth it. I don't know. John Teal, thank you for the $5 donation, says, if the Big Ten wants 20, then they take Washington, Stanford, and Cal, then swing back with something east, cough, cough, Notre Dame. No way USC and UCLA stay on an island. 100% agree with that last part. No way USC and UCLA stay on an island. In fact, I would bet money that there is a clause in their agreement, in their TV deal, whatever you want to call it, grant of rights, for UCLA and USC stating that the Big Ten must add 2 more teams from the West Coast, whether it be Washington, Oregon, or Stanford and Cal, to help with travel issues, because I do not see USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten and staying on an island. So I agree with that, John Teal. And yes, I think that they would get Stanford and Cal first. I think it could work out like this. I don't know if I've done a video on this or not. I'll have to go back and watch my videos because I don't want to repeat myself. But I think it could go down like this. I think the Big Ten gets Cal and Stanford first, right? That puts more pressure on the Pac-12, and then the Four Corners are like, okay, now we're falling apart. They go to the Big 12, and at that time, the Pac-12 doesn't have enough numbers to even exist, so they dissolve. Well, they lose Power 5 status because the protection is taken off, because then they would be under the 6-member requirement. And that's when Washington, Oregon can go to the Big Ten without any antitrust lawsuit. That's the biggest thing why Oregon and Washington haven't gone to the Big Ten right now, is the antitrust lawsuit. So I'll say this, Washington and Oregon fans, if you want to get to the Big Ten, one of two ways. Number one, the Pac-12 starts falling apart first and dissolves, and then the Big Ten accepts you because the Pac-12 doesn't exist and they can't get sued. Or what we've been talking about this evening, you join the Big 12 for a little while, it torpedoes the Pac-12. Maybe the Big Ten takes Cal and Stanford on top of that, and that really torpedoes the Pac-12. Four Corners are like, all right, we're tapping out. We're done. We're going to the Big 12, even though we don't necessarily love it. We're going. Then the Pac-12 goes under as a Power 5 conference, and you can head to the Big Ten. So, Washington and Oregon fans, if you want to go to the Big Ten, you actually have to hope for the demise of the Pac-12. Yep, that's a fact. As long as the Pac-12 exists, I don't think, now I could be wrong, but from what I've seen with the antitrust lawsuits and how they work, as long as the Pac-12 still has Power 5 status, the Pac-12 can still exist, but they can't have Power 5 status for there not to be an antitrust lawsuit. So as long as the Pac-12 still has Power 5 status, you can't go. You just can't. Otherwise, the Pac-12 and maybe I'm not sure how that works. I know the Pac-12 would sue the Big Ten. I'm not sure if they would sue Washington and Oregon, and they would win, by the way, because that would definitely fall under antitrust. So it can't happen until the Pac-12 is no longer a Power 5 conference. It can't. It cannot happen. So maybe the Four Corners go to the Big 12. That knocks you down to, let's see, Oregon, Oregon State, Washington State, Cal, and Stanford. That's down to 6 members. And then the Big Ten comes against Cal and Stanford. You're down to 4 members. Boom, Power 5 status gets taken away. And it might be why SMU is no longer on the table for the Pac-12. I'm hearing that the Pac-12 might be announcing that San Diego State is a member, but I'm also hearing that they're not getting the votes. Maybe Oregon and Washington are not voting for these teams because they don't want expansion, because they want the Pac-12 to be depleted to the point of not having Power 5 status. Guesses, guys. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what's going on. This is guessing. We are officially in the speculation zone, all right? I'm just trying to make sense of everything. What are they thinking? What's going on? If they're adding San Diego State, why haven't they announced yet? If there's a TV deal, why hasn't a TV deal been announced? Like, I'm hearing all this stuff. No, they have a TV deal. They have Tier 1 rights with Amazon and ESPN. Then that's changed over. No, well, that fell through, and ESPN had to pull that deal, and they re-offered. Now it's down to $20 million per team per year. And then another story after that was, well, now the TV deals with Apple TV, and it could be worth up to $35 million per team per year. No announcement out of any of that. No announcement out of any of that. So Pac-12, if you have a TV deal, announce it like a normal conference. Announce who you got it through and what the dollar amount is. Otherwise, you're saying that you don't have a TV deal. Every day that goes by that the Pac-12 doesn't announce that they have a TV deal is another day they don't have a TV deal. It is another day that makes the members of the Pac-12 nervous. And the more nervous a person gets, and this is not just college football, this is not just, presidents, universities, this is everyday life. Think about this, guys. Think about this. The more nervous a person gets, the crazier decisions they make. Right? Am I telling the truth right there? The more nervous a person gets, the less they think clearly, and they start making weird decisions. So you better nail it down. Otherwise, these teams might start making weird decisions. That's all I'm saying. Neil Campbell, thank you for the great $20 donation. Appreciate it, buddy. It says, man, I sent you the helmet, talking about the Nevada helmet, which, yes, I display Group of 5 helmets as well. We're going to extend that all the way over to the other door because we're running out of space with the shelves. And don't worry, that sag right there, we're going to reinforce it, and it won't sag anymore. But anyway, it says, man, I sent you a helmet. I think I should have sent some 2x4. I didn't even read the rest of the comment, and I talked about that. That's funny. I think I should have sent some 2x4s and stuff. No place for my pack helmet. I got you, man. I got you. I'm gonna extend that, and we'll get it going. And in fact, I have this idea of going wall to wall for the top 25 every week. So you'll have the regular stadium shelving, which, by the way, no other YouTube channel out there has stadium shelving for their mini helmets. None. I have checked them all. There's a lot of YouTube channels that have the mini helmets, but I have not found one. Sorry, I got preoccupied with this other super chat. I have not found one YouTube channel that has the stadium shelving for the helmets. And yes, that I bought cheap wood and I'm paying for it. It bends, but I will reinforce it and it will be straight and it will stretch to the other door and we'll have all 132 teams up there as soon as they come in. But anyways, hopefully I don't butcher this name. No. I like this name actually. Thank you, Viva Hernando one of the great YouTube names out there. Appreciate your $5 donation. Says antitrust is only colluding to exclude, like if USC/UCLA were blocking Oregon/UW. Freedom of association, like Oregon, UW going to the Big Ten, is not antitrust. I thought that was considered colluding whenever, they're trying to grab all the best brands out of one conference, and you have to leave like at least one or two teams that have one national championship. And I'm talking like from one conference. Like if it's a bunch of conferences picking them apart, then that's okay. But if it's one conference that keeps getting teams that have national championships, that can lead to an antitrust. But you know what? Since you brought it up, I will look into it because I'm not 100% certain on that. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not 100% certain on that. So I want to make sure that I have it locked down. And yes, I do speculation, but at the same time, I still want to make sure I at least halfway know what I'm talking about. But yes, I'm going to go back to hold on, guys. I'm going to go back to where did it go? There it is. Neil Campbell. So he noticed in my intro that I didn't have a Nevada, and he wanted to make sure that Nevada was represented. I was like, bring it on, buddy. So I appreciate you letting me know. Honestly, it's weird whenever I have my, I have my P.O. box, and whenever I go check my P.O. box, every time I see that little locker key, I'm like, oh, man, that's something big because, and don't get me wrong, whenever you send a T-shirt or a pennant or something small and it's in the actual P.O. box, I get excited about that. But whenever I see the locker key, that's when I know something big came, like something that can't fit in the P.O. box. 9 times out of 10, it's a mini helmet. And I'm like, all right, who do we got today? Who do we got today? So I'll be looking for that little locker key in the next week. And when I do, I'll be excited. I think somebody's sending the Texas Tech Red Raiders helmet, mini helmet as well. And possibly an Auburn one, but that was a while back. So I'm not sure if he wanted to back out of that or not. Anyways, Nevada mini helmet coming, and it will definitely be displayed. And by the way, whenever taxes come back, we're going to put a front on this and display the pinwheel of pennants. We haven't seen that in a while, and we're going to clean this up. Okay, I like the stadium shelving, but it is a little messy. I do admit it is a little messy. So we'll figure that out. John Teal, thank you for the $5 donation. Says the longer they wait to announce the deal, the more Twitter and YouTubers talk about them. That too. Free advertising. BTW, Colorado has a natty, so Washington can go. Well, that's what I'm saying, 1 or 2 teams. And actually, Washington, Colorado have national championships very, very close together. I think Colorado had one in 90 and Washington in 91 or vice versa, something like that. So, yes, I agree. But that's what I'm saying. I wasn't sure if it was down to 1 national championship or 2. I don't know the actual numbers. All I know is I've heard a lot of people talk about the antitrust, and if the Big Ten were to get Washington, Oregon right now, that it could turn into an antitrust. Maybe, perhaps not. Maybe those people that I've been talking to are wrong. Who knows? I mean, who knows? Here's the thing. Even when a trusted source, and I learned this the hard way, guys. I learned this the hard way. Even when a trusted source, somebody that you trust, somebody you know that, number 1, doesn't lie, number 2, has an inside track to the situation, is part of the situation, number 3, has a good track record. Even somebody like that tells you something, you can't lay it down as 100% fact, because I did that and it bit me in the rear end. I had an inside source, somebody inside the situation within the coaching staff. I can't say who still, but inside the coaching staff telling me that the ACC was talking to West Virginia, and West Virginia was talking to the ACC, and they were bringing in ACC and Notre Dame. And they even gave me a timeline. It was like 2 to 3 weeks like that. And like an idiot, I went out there and made a bunch of videos saying this is happening within 2 or 3 weeks. Well, 2 or 3 weeks happened, or maybe there's some type of delay. You know, I kept having to BS my way. Sources are great for content, but don't make an ironclad prediction off of sources. All right, that's one thing that I've learned. But they are a good way to kind of figure out your own opinion on what you think might happen next, and that's why I use sources still, because I don't do predictions anymore, other than preseason predictions, which I'll be doing those. We'll start those in June, and I'm going to try to do as many teams as possible. So, yeah. But, John Teal, you're right. The longer they wait to announce the deal, the more Twitter and YouTubers talk about them. That is actually true, and I know that's free advertisement, but that's free negative advertisement. So I'm not sure if that's good. For YouTube, it's good, but like when you're, an actual professional at something, whether it's academics or you're the president or whatever, you're actually in the public eye. Not sure about that. Matt Ritson, thank you for the $1.99 donation. Says, what's going to happen with Longhorn Network on ESPN? That is a really good question. To my understanding, I think they're letting them keep Longhorn Network, but I need to look into that. That is a really good question. I'm not 100% sure on that, but from what I'm hearing, that the SEC is going to let them keep the Longhorn Network. I'm guessing maybe the SEC will get a percentage of some of the games on Longhorn Network. I don't know. I don't know why they would. I mean, if they allow Texas to do Longhorn Network and they get no benefit out of it whatsoever, then they're basically letting do what Texas does, what they did in the Big 12, and Texas A&M is going to get mad all over again. And that's when you see the chances, the percentage. Oh, the Longhorn Network is gone. I did not know that. Is that true? The Longhorn Network is actually gone. Like, for real, right now it's gone. Why didn't I hear any news on that? Seemed like somebody would have reported that. I don't remember anybody reporting that. That's crazy. Wow. OU network has got. I didn't know Oklahoma had a network. To be honest with you, I knew Texas had a network, but I didn't know Oklahoma. So I'm guessing. That the SEC made them squash out their networks, which I did not know. I hadn't heard about that. So, wow, I'm a little surprised at that. But anyways, so I guess Matt Ritson, the answer to your question is they've already squashed it, and the Longhorn Network is gone now. I don't know. Anyways, going back to the Pac-12. Listen, this whole situation was avoidable. It could have been avoided if George Kliavkoff would have done what he was supposed to do and tried to get a TV deal locked down sooner rather than later. Even if it wasn't a great TV deal, at least you have a TV deal. At least you have stability. Instead, we're talking about the Pac-12 in a very, very negative light. And every day that goes by is just another day without a TV network. And that's going to make these teams more and more nervous. And I understand that they still have, I think, a couple years until their TV deal expires. So maybe something does open up. But they need to get a TV deal, expand, and keep teams from bolting. That is the main reason why you lock down a TV deal, so teams don't bolt. So even that, no, Pac-12's good, our TV deal don't expire for another couple of years. that may be, but at the same time, teams are going to get nervous, and nervous people make weird decisions. Not necessarily bad decisions, but weird decisions that you'd be like, whoa, I did not see that coming. Whoa. Like what I've been talking about in this video, Washington and Oregon going to the Big 12. And let's combine this, all right? So no TV deal, right? Making them nervous. The Big 12's like, hey, come to the Big 12. We know, we understand that eventually the Big 10 is going to come a-calling and you're going to go. So what we'll do for you is we'll give you an out clause. If the Big 10 does come a-calling, we'll let you have 115% revenue of the grant of rights. So, your pockets will definitely not leave lighter than what they came in. So you'll get revenue while you're in. This is not a Notre Dame thing where we're just signing you to a schedule and you're an affiliate or whatever. No, you get full revenue share. And in fact, maybe we'll throw in some unequal revenue share, and you guys can make a little more than everybody else, which I would not be happy about that at all. But I'm not Brett Yormark. I don't make the decisions. So what do you say, guys? I mean, you don't have a TV deal. We're letting you basically not have to sign basically you're not having to sign a grant of rights because we're giving you an out clause for the Big 10. Although I guess the grant of rights would apply to everybody else, but to the Big 10, it doesn't apply. So the out clause to the Big 10, we know they want you and you want them, but we need to torpedo the Big 12. You're getting nervous. Come on over to the Big 12. And we're trying to get these four corner schools really, really nervous to where they think the Pac-12 is going under. We're going to get them over here, and we're good then. If you want to go to the Big 10, that's fine with us. We'll probably grab Washington State and Oregon State to get that Pacific time zone again. And if they don't want to come, which that would be crazy because the Pac-12 is going under, but if they don't come, maybe we'll grab a Fresno State and a San Diego State. It could go something like that. Who really knows what's going behind these closed doors? I'm just telling you what I'm hearing from different sources, and it really surprised me to hear this from a Pac-12 source. Like, it's one thing to hear it from a Big 12 guy like me, because a lot of people think that I'm just going to give a Big 12 twist to it because I'm a Big 12 homer, which means you haven't been watching Gold and Blue for a very long time, because I am not a Big 12 homer. I'm okay with the Big 12 as a conference, but I don't think West Virginia fits in the Big 12 very well. So it's just, I'm glad we're in a Power 5 conference is what it comes down to. So I'm definitely not a homer. So, but it's another thing to actually hear it from a Pac-12 source. And the Pac-12 source was Pac-12 on Prime. And on top of that, CBS is reporting much of the same thing. They made an article basically saying, what is the Pac-12 trying to sell? Viewership without USC and UCLA. Basically half a cup now. because Washington and Oregon, they do bring eyeballs, but just USC and UCLA was worth at least half the TV market of the Pac-12 just in the city of LA. I mean, that's LA's either the largest, I think it's the second largest behind New York, but it's between New York and Los Angeles as far as the largest TV market in the entire nation. And the weird thing is the TV sets in the city of Los Angeles, as far as viewership goes, worth a lot more per TV set. A lot of people don't realize that. In different regions, the viewership from certain TVs are actually worth more. Like TVs up in New England worth much more than TV viewership down in the southeastern part of the United States, except for when you get into the bigger locations like Atlanta, Miami, stuff like that, Dallas. It's hard to explain, but it's true. There's different levels of what's valuable and what's not. It's really, really weird. As far as the TV deal that I'm hearing the Pac-12 is pursuing, that Apple TV deal, that I'm blown away. I was not expecting them to go down this route. I was surprised when I was hearing that they were negotiating with Amazon for Tier 1 rights and giving Tier 2 and Tier 3 rights to ESPN. That surprised me. I'm like, why would you give Tier 1 rights to Amazon? Fine, Tier 2, Tier 3, so that means ESPN is going to get some games, but why would you give your best games to Amazon? This is even worse. You're giving most of your platform to Apple TV. I don't understand it. I actually think Amazon would be a better platform than Apple TV, and I don't think that's a good platform either. Anyways, Hero75, thank you for the $5 donation, says, what would happen North Carolina / Duke decide to go SEC over Big Ten? That's a good question. It is possible. Would the SEC grab more ACC schools to keep Big Ten out of some states? Georgia Tech. Would they? I don't think that they would grab Georgia Tech. That's the one thing. They already have Georgia. They don't need Georgia Tech. And Georgia definitely doesn't want Georgia Tech in the SEC. So Georgia Tech, I would still say no. But if North Carolina and Duke decided to go to the SEC, honestly, if they were tied at the hip, this is why I think North Carolina and Duke will go to the Big Ten, because I do think, it is my opinion, I don't know it for sure, but it is my opinion that wherever North Carolina goes, Duke will go as well. I might be wrong. Who knows? But if that's true, they're going to the Big Ten. That's why I have them going to the Big Ten. If it's not true, then it will be North Carolina and Virginia, Clemson, and probably the Miami Hurricanes going to the SEC. So if the SEC gets a North Carolina team that's not NC State, it'll be North Carolina. But they won't get Duke. They do not want Duke. So if those two teams are tied at the hip, which I think they are, I'm not sure, that they're tied at the hip, then they're going to the Big Ten. They both have AU status, no big deal, done deal. But if they're not, and the SEC wants North Carolina and North Carolina wants to go to the SEC, then they'll bring in Virginia for that other rival spot for North Carolina, because North Carolina will want a rival to go with them wherever they go. And if Duke can't go with them to the SEC, then they'll bring in Virginia, which actually, if you think about that, really, really smart. You're getting two separate footprints instead of having to stay in one state. So Miami Hurricanes, Clemson, North Carolina, NC State, and nope, that's 5. Let me redo that. North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, and Virginia. There you go. I don't know why I said NC State, because if you get North Carolina, then you're not getting NC State. And that would actually screw NC State if they want to go to the Big Ten or the SEC, because the Big Ten is not taking NC State. NC State does not have AU status. NC State is either SEC or Big 12, if and when the ACC does dissolve. Who knows? They might last until 2036. Those teams have not voted to dissolve yet. The ACC still exists. So until that happens, guess what? The ACC will continue to exist. They will continue to exist. But I think there's a possibility, a big-time possibility, that those teams will eventually decide to dissolve. I don't know when, and I think 4 will go to the Big Ten, 4 will go to the SEC, and 4 will go to the Big 12. And then you got 2 teams that'll be SOS, and that's Wake Forest and Boston College. I do not think anybody – I think everybody learned from the tough lesson from the ACC. The ACC thought it was a great idea to get Boston College. Oh, we're going to get that Boston TV market. No, you're not. Boston is a professional sports team. Nobody really cares about Boston College. So Boston College is lucky to be in a Power 5 conference, and nobody's going to pick them up. But there's so many things, and the key to the Pac-12 is Oregon and Washington. Let's not kid ourselves, all right? The key to the Pac-12 is Oregon and Washington, and there's just so many things that I've heard about that. Well, the Big Ten will take them in the next go-around because the Big Ten does it in 2s. Well, no, they can't get Oregon and Washington right now because of antitrust lawsuit. Well, no, Oregon and Washington is actually going to use the Big 12 as a stepping stone, and then they'll be able to go to the Big Ten. Well, no, actually, Oregon and Washington are going independent and signing a 2-year deal every 2 years, and ESPN and Fox will help them fill their schedule until the Big Ten wants them. It's like 5 or 6 different roads, but if you think about it, the destination is always the Big Ten. Their destination is always the Big Ten. So the key to this puzzle is Oregon and Washington. Make no mistake about it. And I do think eventually, whether it's 5 years from now or 20 years from now, I do think eventually that Oregon and Washington do end up in the Big Ten, and that happens. And I do think eventually that the Power 5 protection, the Autonomous 5 protection on the Pac-12 will be taken off because they're just going to lose so many members. Once you get down to 6 members, you either have to refill or disband. Once you get down to 6 members, as far as the teams that signed the TV deal, in other words, the 10 teams right now, if they get down to 6 or lower, the NCAA can vote to take off that Autonomous 5 or Power 5 status, and that's when the antitrust lawsuit goes away. And that's when the Pac-12 can completely get disintegrated. So all it takes is for the 4 corner schools to go to the Big 12. That's all it takes. That is all it takes. All it takes. Brett Yormark is over there in the Big 12 trying to do everything within his power to make that happen. He knows that Oregon and Washington really don't want to go to the Big 12, and eventually they will be in the Big 10. But he wants the 4 corners to come so bad that he wants to torpedo the Pac-12 and say, Washington, Oregon, come on over to the Big 12. Even though we know you're going to the Big 10, we won't make you sign a grant of rights for the Big 10. It'll still be in effect for the SEC, the ACC, and whoever else, if you want to go into a group of 5. But for the Big 10, we'll give you an out clause, and we'll give you 115% revenue from the grant of rights, basically unequal revenue share, because we want the 4 corners the most. We know that the 4 corners have nowhere else to go if the Pac-12 goes under. So we need your help to get that done. And we'll even give you an out clause because we know that you really don't want to be in the Big 12, but we want to torpedo the Pac-12 so much and get the 4 corners so much, we're willing to be used as a path. And on top of that, give you an unequal revenue share. Makes sense. John Teal, thank you for the $5 donation, says, if the ACC was going to vote to blow up, don't you think they would have done it already? That's what I've been saying, actually. I'm trying to figure out. What if they just want to stay home and keep pushing for Notre Dame? And you answered my question, actually, right there. You asked me the question, and you answered it. If the ACC, well, you didn't really ask a question, but you made a point, and then you gave the reason why you made the point. If the ACC were going to vote to blow up, they would have done it already. That's what I'm starting to think. I mean, they haven't done it. They still exist. What if they just want to stay home and keep pushing for Notre Dame? Well, that's their only hope. And maybe Notre Dame is giving these glances over the ACC, like, well, you know, the playoffs expanded to 12 teams, and 6 top conference champions get an auto bid, and the 4 top conference champions get a bye week. We will never, ever be able to get that bye week if we're not a part of a conference. And if the ACC stays together and Notre Dame ever joins a conference before 2036, it has to be the ACC. You might be right, John Teal. The ACC might be playing a waiting game. Those teams in the ACC might be playing a waiting game and just hoping and praying that Notre Dame does join the ACC. I don't know. And if that that's one thing. Notre Dame joining the ACC is the Big Ten, and, well, not really the Big Ten's, but definitely the SEC's worst nightmare. They do have other options in the Big 12, but, man, they really, really, really want those brands of the ACC. For the Big Ten, they still have Oregon and Washington. There's different avenues that they have to take, but still they have them over there. It's not make or break with the ACC like it is with the SEC and the ACC. The SEC wants Clemson really, really bad. They want Florida State, but Florida State don't want the SEC. Florida State wants the Big Ten. They'll take the Miami Hurricanes, and they definitely want North Carolina. I don't know if they're going to get North Carolina, though. I think there's one team that they might get out of this whole deal, and that's Clemson. Perhaps Virginia. I don't know. Because they're not going to be willing to take North Carolina and Duke together, and that would be a deal breaker for North Carolina potentially, because I'm not sure if they're joining the hip. John Teal, thank you for the $5 donation. Says Arizona and Arizona State is living off California students and boosters. Do you think it would be smart to walk away from that for an extra $6 or $7 TV million? That's true, and that's why they might be waiting on what Cal and Stanford does. Think about that. Maybe they're maybe they know something. Maybe they don't know something. I don't know. I believe that the next step will be the Big Ten gets Cal and Stanford. I really do. The academics are just through the roof, absolutely through the roof, and worth a ton of money. I think that could happen next. And once that California well runs dry, maybe that's when the Four Corners go. I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. But it all goes back to the longer the Pac-12 doesn't have a TV deal, the more nervous these teams are going to get. And I know they had their side hustle with academics that's worth a lot of money. But just like everybody else, I'm not trying to single out the Pac-12 whenever I say this, all right? Do not take it that way, okay? Everybody across the nation thinks this way. So just like everybody else, the Pac-12 does care how people view them when it comes to, what they're seeing on television or what they're hearing about them, how they're being reported. Whether it comes to conference talk or if it comes to football talk, it doesn't matter. They do care what their public perception is of them in the public. They do care about that. And so the longer that they don't have a TV deal, yes, they get nervous, but at the same time, the Pac-12 gets worse and worse. And these universities are going to be like, man, how much longer do we want a part of the laughing stock? Right now, I mean, I'm just being honest. I'm not trying to trash talk. I'm really not. Right now, the Pac-12 is the laughing stock. Maybe they turn it around and maybe the egg is on my face and everybody else that's talking about this. Maybe the Pac-12 has an ace up their sleeve that nobody knows about, that they're just, for whatever reason, they're not revealing. I don't know. But right now, they are the laughing stock. Everybody thinks they're going to get torpedoed. Everybody thinks that their days are numbered. Everybody thinks that George Kliavkoff is a clown. Everybody thinks that about the Pac-12 right now. I don't know what the Pac-12 is going to do. Maybe they do pull that ace out of their sleeve, and then everybody's like, well, we were wrong. Right now, the public perception of the Pac-12 is bad. Really, really bad. And how much, combined with nervousness and not having a TV deal, how much could that affect the decisions of these schools where they're like, man, I don't know how much longer I can be in a conference where we're just being talked about negative day after day after day. I don't know, man. And then not only is the conference being talked about negatively, but, man, they're mentioning our university. They're mentioning that university. They're mentioning everybody around us. I mean, this is a bad deal. This is a bad deal. How much longer are they going to be willing to put up with that? And if they do get a deal with Apple TV, they're going to get dogged for that too. And that's not what I'm hoping for the Pac-12. I'm not sitting here like getting my chuckles. Pac-12. No, I'm not. I actually enjoy the Pac-12. I miss the Pac-12 being relevant. That's why I think it's sad that it looks like they're going down the tubes. And you better believe that the fans and the universities and the members of this conference are like, George, if you don't turn this around immediately, we don't know if we want to be a part of the conference. That's the joke of the entire nation. Do you think the Pac-12 could force George Kliavkoff out if this continues? If the days keep piling up and there's no TV deal that the Pac-12, I don't know what kind of buyout he's looking at, or if that's even more money that they would have to shell out. I don't know, but man, yikes. David Z, thank you for the $2 donation. Says John Teal acknowledgement post. Dude goes hard. Yeah, he does. And I always tip my cap to John Teal. He supports the channel a lot. He donates to the channel a lot. He's a great supporter, great viewer, and he knows what he's talking about. And he goes hard with his comments. He doesn't attack, but he doesn't hold back it either. Like, if he knows something and if something's fact or if something makes sense, he's going to let you know whether it makes you look dumb or not. He's not trying to make you look dumb, but hey, if you said something stupid and the facts prove that you said something stupid, that's on you, not John Teal. So yes, I 100% agree with that. And I always agree, and I always enjoy whenever he super chats and gives his opinion. It's I have a good time with him. I really, really do. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up. We have another school day tomorrow, so I got to get up early and do the whole school routine. But we will definitely have another live show tomorrow at 10 p.m. More rumors, speculation, and updates on the Pac-12 as well as the Big 12, possibly the ACC. I might be hearing some news out of the ACC as well, so I'm keeping my ears to the grindstone. And I promise you, I will have a regular video out tomorrow with the graphics of these screenshots that I'm reading off to you. That way you can see them for yourself and you can make up your own mind. I'm not here to make up your mind. You make up your own mind. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing. I'm giving you my opinion and speculating on top of that. You have the freedom to make up your own choice. So I will give you the sources. I will give you their names, which you already know most of them. And you will see the screenshots for tomorrow's video. But for tonight, great live show as usual. Not because of me, but because of you. Appreciate everybody hitting the like button. Make sure before you head out of here, hold on. Slow down. Don't mean to rush. Before you head out of here, make sure to hit the like button. Greatly appreciate it. Still helps the video, even when we're not live. And if you're watching the replay right now, please hit the like button. You also help the YouTube algorithm and help us get views as well. So if y'all do that quickly on the way out, I would greatly appreciate it. And shout out to everybody that commented. Shout out to all the super chats. You guys keep this show running hard. All those donations in the off season really helps, and it keeps me motivated. Like, I feel like I'm doing something. Man, these guys are supporting me. I know I'm doing something right. And the channel just keeps growing. You saw. Hold on. Let me give you the. There's our subscriber update. 12,833, which means we are one. Hopefully, I don't mess up my math. 167. That means if everybody that was watching this live show, if you're not subscribed, if you had hit the subscribe button, we would have hit 13,000. Let's hit 13,000. Tell a friend about Gold and Blued, and let's keep it growing. But anyways, we're done for tonight. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your. I think it's Wednesday. My day's running. Anyways, have a good rest of your Wednesday, a good rest of your hump day, and we will see you tomorrow. But as of right now, today, Gold and Blue Dude is officially out.